Hey everyone, it's Pastor Sarah here. It's our welcome to our On the Road worship. I hope all is going well wherever you are this day. We are continuing our study through the Abrahamic family, the family of Abraham, and after learning about Isaac's birth and Sarah and her reactions to God, and then last week Sarah's jealousies overtaking her and bringing um, and sending Hagar and Ishmael out into the wilderness and really endangering their lives. Here we come. So this is beyond Hagar and Ishmael. They're gone. They've moved on with their lives. And God turns to Abraham and asks him to sacrifice Isaac, his only son that's left. He's already, in some ways, sacrificed Ishmael. And Isaac is the trusting son, follows him on the journey. A couple of servants go with them, and they go on this journey to Mount Moriah, which is God sees. We've got a lot of interesting naming happening in the book of Genesis. And so Abraham and Isaac are heading to the mountain, and increasingly God helps Abraham to see what's happening. So at first, God says, I need you to do this. And Abraham says, well, okay, I trust you, God. Whether, we don't have his internal monologue, we know if he was just like acting it out but not really believing, or if he really believed. God of course, knew. And maybe God knew that Abraham trusted him in far bigger ways. We don't really know those details, but we know that God reached out to Abraham, and Abraham trusted God, and Isaac was kind of caught in the middle. And we get through the story, and we get to the end, and of course Abraham sees the ram instead of, and so the sheep, the ram, is sacrificed on the altar instead of Isaac. And again, we don't have the kind of emotional response to this. Did Isaac ever trust his father again? What did Isaac think about God asking all of this? Was he too young to really know what was happening? Was he old enough to know that he was in danger? It's always a good question. But the thing that I get out of the story, increasingly, the book of Genesis especially, as well as other stories that I don't always understand, teach me a lot about the mystery of God, about a God who isn't always rational. We want God to be rational. We want humans to be rational, and we can't be rational. I don't know why we think that God, who is so much more than human, maybe we think that God should be rational, and God is probably, I would say, beyond rational, beyond what we could ever imagine. When we try to make God the ideal human, which I think is what we kind of do with God sometimes, we limit God because God is beyond that. And that's disconcerting at times. It's unsettling. It have us in this nice little box. And I appreciate that, because our God is so much bigger than anything I can imagine. And that is really important, because if I can explain God, then God is far too small to worship. And so while I don't have all the answers, and I'm going to ask you all a few more questions that will probably lead to even more questions after our video today, know that our God is so great and worthy of worship that our understanding will never be full, but our love will be. And that's where I think Abraham is a little bit farther along than we are, because he might not understand where God is going or what God is doing, but that love and that trust and that relationship is so much stronger. I wouldn't have probably followed his path. Not something God asks us to do. that was a particular command for Abraham. But I think it's an important process to think about. What does God ask of us? And in what ways does that make us uncomfortable with God? Oh, discomfort with God. God's supposed to be comfortable, right? Well, I hope I have confused you and made you question and made you search some more. If you've got any questions, go ahead and leave a comment in the blog. Thank you, and God bless you in all that you're doing.